Hello everyone, my name is Nasir Hicks, and this is my landscape evolution project on the Yasuni Rainforest, also known as the most biodiverse place in the world. The Yasuni National Park resides in Ecuador, sitting just on the border of Peru. The Yasuni National Park in size covers around 9,820 square kilometers, and it was founded in 1979, which would make it around 45 years old to this day. I chose to take on this challenge of the Yasuni National Park because I'm very fond of animals, and Yasuni National Park has a plethora of flora and fauna that are very unique to just that park. The major landforms of Yasuni National Park consist of dense lowland rainforests, winding rivers such as the Napo and Tiputini River, wetlands, and gentle hills. An aerial view of Yasuni National Park would be described as vast, green, and canopy-like, with rivers that intersect with each other, such as the Napo and Tiputini. The elevation of Yasuni National Park is around 190 to 400 square meters above sea level. And also a fun fact is indigenous groups such as the Huarani and Quechua clan were the earliest inhabitants. The park used to be used for forestry and is now under protection for conservation of animals. The tectonic setting. Yasuni sits on the western edge of the South American plate, which you can see. If you could see my mouse, it would be around here. I'm pretty sure. Regional tectonics are shaped by the subduction of the Nazca Plate beneath South America. The park is located within the flat Amazon basin, and no significant earthquakes have occurred at Yasuni, but tectonic forces have helped shape its rivers, such as the Tiputini, over time. The most important tectonic influence is the sediment delivered from the Andes and distributed throughout the floodplain. Geologic origin. Basin formed by long-term sedimentation from the rising Andes. Surface is a flat floodplain composed of thick alluvial deposits such as sand, silt, and clay, with a little bedrock exposed. The main processes would consist of the uplift of Andes, erosion of mountain rock, transport of sediments, via rivers of course, and the formation of floodplains. Landforms would be meanders, oxbow lakes, levees, wetlands, which occur from channel or migration, and overbank deposition. Primary hazards would be riverbank collapse, channel avulsion, and localized debris flow after extreme rain, which is an ongoing problem in Peru. It's very hard for them to recover after rainfall. Past and modern climate influences. It is usually tropical, and they have an aseasonal rainforest climate, the average being 25 to 27 degrees Celsius. Its wet seasons occur from October to May, and the dry seasons occur from June to September. In the past, multiple climate cycles, both wet and dry, altered alter the amount of water through rivers and the size of the floodplain. Now, in the modern day, frequent heavy rain leads to bank erosion, which leads to wetland expansion. Frequency. Seasonal flood happens annually, and major channel shifts or avulsions usually happens over decades or centuries. The impacts. Floods deposit nutrient-rich sediment that sustains high biodiversity, which allows Yasuni National Park to have much greenery around it. While also it keeps systems healthy for animals. Geologic hazards. Main hazards: flooding, riverbank collapse, channel avulsion, and localized landslides or debris flows. Main geologic hazards. Main hazards: flooding, riverbank collapse, channel avulsion, localized landslides / debris flow. Frequency: seasonal floods, as I've mentioned, and major avulsions, which create large-scale changes over century or decadal time. Disasters: heavy rain usually leads to bank saturation, which leads to vegetation loss, which leads to the bank collapsing, leading to debris entering channels, which then lead to downstream flooding, which leads to further erosion. And before I move on to scientific research, not so much a geological hazard, but there's also tons of drilling sites going on in Peru, and not just Peru, but the Amazon rainforest. So that is another one of the reasons why we're having these debris falls aside from the rain. From my scientific research, I found 3 projects that are in the actual Yasuni rainforest, which I thought was pretty cool. It seems that they have lots of research going down over there already, which is pretty interesting. The first project I looked at was the Mossy Earth Project, which is a program aimed at restoring the Yasuni National Park and other regions of the Amazon rainforest. The second finding that I found is the Tiputini Biodiversity Station, and they're aimed at researching and monitoring animal behavior at the moment. From what I've looked at, they also seem to have done more, but looking on the website, I can just see a few things such as animal monitoring and also like behavioral patterns. The third finding that I found is actually a blog by Kevin Koenig. He recognizes the injustice in the parliament not taking action upon the bills being passed to stop drilling near biodiverse regions in Ecuador. I chose this blog because I thought that it was interesting. He goes over how not just people like him, reporters, and people outside of outside of Peru, but all of the people in Peru have been begging the government to pass the bill to stop drilling in biodiverse regions. However, it's to no avail, as they're still doing it to this day, and it's very difficult to get them to stop. Climate change and future landscape. Human impacts. Oil roads. Deforestation. Altered hydrology. Climate change and future landscape. Human impacts. Oil roads, deforestation, and altered hydrology. As you can see, this is actually, I'm pretty sure, a pipeline which is just next to Yasuni National Park. And my prediction is that there will be more extreme rainfalls, more droughts, and further erosion, as this has been the main pattern that we've seen over the past 45 years. The biggest threat to Yasuni National Park is likely its biodiversity and the terra firma forest decline. I mainly would say biodiversity loss because this is the main way that Yasuni National Park gets its visitors and much of its money to continue researching and helping it maintain being the most biodiverse place in the world. Now we're on to resource management and safety plans. Responses could be riparian buffers, which is like a long river, which they could use on the Tiputini or Napo River. And it's basically a farm that's on each side of the river, and you will grow vegetation on each side of the river. I'll further explain on the next slide. Conservation zoning, and which they're already trying to do, and seasonal visitor routing, which I'm pretty sure they already do. Adaptation, they can raise homes, they can make agriculture more flexible, and I'm pretty sure they already have indigenous-led patrols. Policies are restricted work zones in core areas of Yasuni, and that's pretty much it. You're basically free to roam, just you're not allowed to pass certain areas such as like conservation areas or conservation zones, as much of it already is, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, this just kind of goes over what a riparian buffer is and also gives you a view of what it is. It's a vegetation farm which surrounds both sides of a river or stream. And as you can see here, you can see the lush vegetation growing on this side and this side. I figured that since this is the most biodiverse place in America, I figured that this is the most flora and fauna of Yasuni. Flora and fauna of Yasuni. I figured since this is the most biodiverse place in the world that I would get questions on what type of animals we would have here. So I would love to run down what animals are in Yasuni. There's over 200 species of different mammals at Yasuni alone, such as spider monkeys, capybara, armadillos, tapirs. I mean, you could pretty much name any animal or any mammal, maybe not any, but most mammals, and Yasuni would most likely have it, or a relative cousin. Birds, from parrots to woodpeckers, there are around 60 different bird species in Yasuni National Park alone. And also reptiles and amphibians. Very cool fact. They hold the world record for the most species of reptilians and amphibians. And I think they hold both world records for both of those separately. And for fish, there are over 300 different species of freshwater fish, including special finds such as river dolphins and piranhas. Now, piranhas, I could pretty much take a guess of them being in Yasuni National Park, but river dolphins, I was pretty surprised on. I would never expect to see dolphins and piranhas in the same place. Um, personal co- my personal connection to Yasuni National Park. Um, while I don't exactly have a personal connection, I really love animals, and I chose to do my research on this park because its biodiverse environment made me interested in not just the animals, but once I found out about what's going on in Ecuador and also places near Yasuni and just the Amazon rainforest in general, it gave me the motivation to further my research. I'm also an avid film lover, and I really love the movie City of God, which takes place in Brazil or South America, you know. And yeah, I'm just in love with the flora and fauna around South America. Thank you. And if you have any questions, please do comment in my discussion post. Thank you so much. And here are my sources.